Hello, welcome. Welcome to Solar Oregon's Comparing Solar Quotes webinar. My name is Nicole, and I am a program manager at the nonprofit Solar Oregon. This is a reoccurring workshop. We also have another workshop more focused on the basics of solar, and it's called How to Go Solar and Storage. Plus storage. And in this one, we'll be building upon that solar basics workshop and looking more closely at comparing solar quotes. We will start by just doing a refresher on the fundamentals in a solar system. Then we'll see how you might see that represented on a quote. And next, we'll take a look at different elements in a quote, and we'll walk through an example quote. We'll wrap up with talking about finding a contractor if you haven't already done that. And then we will also have a Q&A session after the presentation so that we can get your questions answered. With that, we're going to be using the chat as a place to put helpful resource links. So I'm going to put some of those in there now, and I'll be reposting those as we go through the presentation. These will also be sent out to you via email when we send the recording out of this workshop. If you want to check out any of our other recordings, you can go to the Solar Oregon YouTube page and see our previous workshops there. Like I said, this one will be sent out to you if you've registered for this event. Just some housekeeping. The Q&A box will be in your toolbar. So please feel free to add questions there throughout the presentation. And the chat we'll just be using for those resources. So please be sure to put the questions in the Q&A so they are not missed. So background on Solar Oregon, if you're not familiar with us, we're a 501c3 nonprofit that has worked to encourage solar and storage adoption throughout Oregon since 1979. We do this by providing reliable and impartial consumer education like this workshop. And we also work to build a clean energy community and perform outreach as well as some policy advocacy. We facilitate solar tours, zero energy showcases, expert panel discussions on a range of topics related to solar. And we also help with Solarize campaigns, which are regionally focused short-term events where you can access solar discounts by going solar with your neighbors. And keep an eye out on our webpage at solaroregon.org for our events. And also we have an Eventbrite page where we post events as well. So we have this workshop and our How to Go Solar Plus Storage workshop monthly. But there are other events such as our Green Energy Series, that will happen throughout the month. And we have two flagship events, our Solar Wine Tour that happens in May, that's in person, and then our Go Zero Tour that happens in every October. So thanks for joining today. This workshop is also supported by Energy Trust of Oregon. Energy Trust is an independent nonprofit that was established in 2002 that provides resources to help enable customers of the investor-owned utilities in our state to access renewable energy and also use energy efficiently. Energy Trust offers key incentives for solar installation and battery storage. They coordinate a network of solar trade allies who are able to offer these incentives. So thank you, Energy Trust. And for more information, you can go to energytrust.org or scan the QR code. So just in case you haven't already gotten quotes, if you're looking to do that, a good place to do that is to use a simple tool to connect to a trade ally through Energy Trust Trade Ally Network. And you can do this by using the custom analysis and bid form. And those links are in the chat, and I'll go ahead and repost that. And you can also scan the QR code. Energy Trust Trade Ally contractors have been rigorously vetted, and they are highly rated and are the only contractors who can offer Energy Trust incentives for solar and storage. We recommend working with Trade Ally contractors and also getting at least 3 quotes if you're able. If you're in some more rural parts of the state, or on the coast, it may be harder because there are less contractors in those areas, but try to get at least 3 so that you have quotes to compare to see what is the best option for your home. Hopefully you've already connected with contractors and we can dig a little deeper into the comparing of those quotes now. So we're going to look at the fundamentals in a solar system, just as a refresher. So this is a diagram of a typical grid-tied solar system. You can see the solar panel or photovoltaic panel, and that oftentimes in metro areas is on a roof, but there are also ground-mounted systems. This panel will take in sunlight and convert it into a special type of electricity called DC electricity. And the appliances and outlets in your home are AC electricity. So there's a special component called an inverter or microinverter that will convert the DC electricity into AC electricity that can be used by your home. And if you are looking to go solar and you do have an older home, you may need to do electrical panel upgrades since that will be part of your system. Also, for a grid-tied system, you would get a special bidirectional utility meter, and that would measure the electricity that you are sending out to the grid and also what you're pulling from the grid. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So net metering, we have that for PGE customers and Pacific Power customers in our state. And if you're not sure, if you're on a different utility provider, you can ask what that looks like if you're a grid-tied solar system. But net metering for PG and Pacific Power allows you to earn credit for the excess electricity that you send out onto the grid. And it also allows you to access electricity from the grid at times where your solar might be producing less. So here are a couple graphs that show what net metering might look like in the summer and in the winter. So on the left, you can see there's more solar access. The sun's out longer, so your system can produce more electricity with your solar and that sunlight. And that is demonstrated by that orange bar. And the blue bar shows your consumption. So if you're producing more electricity than you consume at your home or business, with net metering, you could export that out to the grid and gain net metering credits. And in the winter months, when it's less sunny and rainy, because you're grid tied, you can also draw from the grid. If you want to learn more about net metering, check out our How to Go Solar and Storage workshop. And we show what that might look like on your energy bill when you have net metering. Solar is highly modular and customizable. So depending on your home or business and what the goals are of your system, your solar might look different than of the solar of your neighbor. So here in Oregon, average size for a home for solar is about 8 kilowatts, and you'll see that abbreviated as KW. And oftentimes the size of your system is determined by how much energy you consume, available space, and your budget. Differences in system production can vary depending on the size of your system, the design of your system, and how much solar resource you have at your home or business. When you compare different solar quotes, you can look at the differences in how much power your system is estimated to produce. There's often an estimate that'll be included on the quote. And you can also look at how many watts of capacity are in your system. So in Oregon, it's about 8 kilowatts is a average size, but that can really vary if you're looking to offset more of your electricity consumption and you have a lot of electrical loads. Maybe you have a larger home or business and you have a lot of electronic appliances, then you might have a larger size system to help provide enough electricity for that. When you're comparing the quotes, you'll want to look at that size and the design of your system. And you can also calculate your cost per watt by dividing the total cost by the watt capacity. So if we use that example again of the average sized 8 kilowatt system, you could take the cost and divide it by 8,000 watts. And it's good to note that that's not the only metric that you would use. You also want to be aware of the quality of your parts, making sure you're working with a reputable contractor, and then trying to make sure that the system matches your goals and expectations. And when we're working with a contractor, it's great to ask questions since they'll have the site specifics of your home or business. So if there is something you're unsure about as you're looking at the quote, you should ask your contractor since they have that visibility to the size of your home. They might even ask you for your energy bill to see what your energy consumption is. And that's a really good time as you're going through the quotes to ask those questions for those items that you might not be sure of so that you have no surprises later. And then the production solar estimate that is on your quote, you'd want to ask, does that include peak summer and winter? What's included in that estimate? Because contractors may calculate that estimate differently. And then also looking at other charges that might be included in the quote. So reasons costs vary. Just as a refresher from the basics of solar and storage, your system size and design could be different than another system. If you need to make any roofing or electrical upgrades, that could also increase your cost. When you're getting solar and you're roof mounting it, it's recommended to have at least 10 years of roof life because often panels last for about 25 years. So if your roof is old and you need to replace it, you would have to uninstall the solar panels, put on your new roof, and reinstall your solar panels, which would incur additional costs. So being able to have enough roof life is going to help reduce that cost of uninstalling and reinstalling. And then when you are getting quotes and talking to a contractor, it's important to, share with them what your goals are for the system. And if you expect any differences in your consumption at your home or business, for example, if you're thinking about adding an EV charger or an ADU, things like that, that might fluctuate your energy consumption. That'll be important to share. So that can be incorporated in your design and planning. For example, if you install storage to an existing solar system, sometimes you might need to reconfigure the design, replace an inverter in order to incorporate home battery storage and pair that with your solar. So if that is something you want, solar plus storage, being able to consider that as you're planning is very helpful. Your access to incentives also can impact your costs, and then interconnection applications and fees can impact your cost. All right, we're going to jump into more elements of a quote. It's good to review what type of equipment is included in your quote. Oftentimes you'll see equipment like the panels, the inverters, the monitoring system, included racking equipment, conduit, wiring. So it's important to make sure you understand what you're paying for. And then reviewing if there are any additional fees or costs is going to be helpful. Um, and also asking about if there are warranties or plans for maintenance that are covered with that installer is very helpful. Solar is very low maintenance, but it is not no maintenance like most things on our homes or businesses. There is some maintenance required. So being able to check that and see what warranties might be included or adders are included is very helpful. So we talked about type of equipment, also considering what brands are included. Some brands are more expensive than others. If it's a new technology, that can impact your cost as well. So discussing with your contractor what is included if you're unsure is helpful. An example of this is solar roof tiles. Solar roof tiles is both a roofing equipment and solar panels, and it is a newer technology, so it is often more expensive. It's required to be installed differently than typical solar panels. So that is an example where you would see costs fluctuate. And it's good to ask at the quote stage, what you're really getting. We talked a little bit about adders, but here again are some examples of adders. And for those warranties, there's often warranties that'll be on the specific parts, so manufacturer warranties. And there's also sometimes a contractor warranty that is for the labor part of the installation. So checking with how long those are and understanding those warranties is helpful. Um, Key elements in a quote. So some of these are some of those equipment items. So the inverter, you'll see the different equipment listed, what type of modules are used, which can vary for different contractors. Some contractors specialize in different brands and technologies. And also seeing, if there's any warranty listed on that quote or performance guarantees, that would be helpful to review as well. As with any major financial decision, you should consider consulting a professional before you make a decision. It's important to pay attention to the payment structure if you are financing your system. And we'll talk a little bit more about different financing options for solar. And we are actually going to be releasing a new workshop that dives a little bit deeper into financing. But understanding how you're going to pay for your solar is important. And here are some examples of ways people might finance their solar if they're not just paying directly. So there are loans, leases, power purchase agreements, and then incentives and credits can impact those costs too. So knowing what solar and storage incentives are available and that you're eligible for is really helpful as you go through your solar journey. So for leases and PPAs, it's important to understand the leasing terms and also consider, again, are you planning to, for example, sell your home soon? Maybe a lease is something that you might want to reconsider because when you go to sell your home, you do have to address the lease. So if you are selling soon, that you might want to look into a loan instead. Um, and then again, a good place to start is just seeing what general incentives and credits you can access. And different utilities have different incentives and those fluctuate. We'll talk about the ones that are currently available a little bit later. Another type of loan is a smart e-loan. This is for solar financing for homeowners specifically. And it's only offered in PGE and Pacific Power territories. But there are links in the chat if you want to learn more about that. Um, and then just as you consider loans or leases, you can also check with your local bank or credit union as you have a relationship with them already to see if they have any loans or leases for solar. And then oftentimes installers might also offer financing options. So when you're looking into loans, here's some helpful items to look at. Um, Looking at what the interest rate is, seeing if there's any other additional fees, such as dealer fees or early payment penalties for the loan. Understanding what your refinancing options are is helpful, and then also knowing who services the loan. For those incentives, currently, Energy Trust of Oregon offers a standard incentive for solar and for home battery storage. For Portland, so Pacific Power and PGE customers. So here, showing what the current incentives are for both solar and storage. And you can see for solar, it's just going to be a flat amount, $2,500. And this incentive would be something that would impact your out-of-pocket cost. So a trade ally contractor, who are the only ones who can offer these incentives, um, would apply for it upon your behalf, and it would impact that out-of-pocket cost. And then for home battery storage, it varies a little bit. So 400 kilowatts per hour, up to $5,000 for storage and for PGE customers. And then for Pacific Power customers, it's $320 per kilowatt hour, up to $4,000. And there are sometimes restrictions on the type of system or what the capacity is of the system, but the trade ally contractor can help you navigate that. In addition to the standard incentives, there's also an income qualified incentive, and it's great to check if you qualify for this. Um, and you can do that by scanning this QR code or going to Energy Trust Solar Within Reach. And it's helpful to check because don't know until you check the eligibility if you would qualify, and the incentives really do help. So being able to access incentives will help that out-of-pocket cost. All right, so a couple example quotes. Here we can see a couple components in this example where they're showing the system specs. In one example, um, they recommended a 9.88 kilowatt system, and the other one it's a 10.92 kilowatt system. And so as we talked about, solar is highly customizable and is going to vary depending on those needs that you have, your cost, and then available roof space. There's certain setbacks that are required when you install solar on your roof, and you do have to meet code as well when you install solar, and there's specific code requirements. So that will impact that ability to have a certain size system also. And so on these quotes, similar components or elements will show up, but they might look slightly different across the quotes. So laying out your three quotes, printing them is very helpful if you have the ability to do that. So you can kind of, you know, compare apples to apples on, okay, what's the system size? What type of equipment is being included? And then also comparing the pricing as well, because some of that is displayed differently across the quotes. And here you can see an example of how that might be displayed and seeing what kind of incentives are included on the quote. And if you have questions as you go through it, you should ask your contractor. You can also reach out to us as well at info@solaroregon.org if you have questions as you're comparing your quotes. And then this is just what a materials breakdown might look like. So in one example, you're seeing your system specs or materials or equipment listed out um, in, a more like image facing way, and but it still is telling you, what the module is. Okay, it's a fab panel, 200, it's a 420 watt panel. And then you can see, what the modules are, and compare that on your other quote. Some folks do have preferences on what modules they want used or what type of equipment. Um, for example, or if it's like a made in America item, but not all installers will offer all types of modules or equipments or brands. So really getting those three quotes is going to be helpful so that you can compare. And you can always ask the installer if they have access to a brand if you're really wanting to access a particular brand, but not all installers will carry all brands. So that's something to keep in mind. And if you're getting financing, looking at how that's displayed on your quote as well, and making sure that you understand that, so that you understand what your terms are going to be, and what the costs are. And once you've compared some of those equipment, module, production estimate items on your quote, um, you also might want to compare some of the things about the actual business or contractor, such as the company culture, company size and structure, how many years in business has the solar contractor been installing solar. And there's also reviews, and we know like reviews depending on the source can vary. So getting reviews from different sites can be helpful. And then, just understanding that depending on where the review is coming from, that could also impact the results. But for reviews, you can check out reviews online. Sometimes also contractors might have reviews posted on their website. Um, and you can also look into like Better Business Bureau and check other ways to review a contractor. And you can also ask for testimonials or references from the contractor. For example, if you were installing solar roof tiles instead of solar panels, um, asking that installer how many installs do they do with these solar roof tiles, and can you reach out to a reference of recent projects of folks who have installed these. Um, that can be helpful, and just a way to get some reviews in different ways, because sometimes online reviews um, don't tell the whole picture. So that can be really helpful. Credentialing. So, um, like we said, you can check out the Better Business Bureau. If there's any specific certifications they have listed on their website, looking at what those are. And then we already talked about the Trade Ally Network. So here in Oregon, um, there is a trade ally network. And so solar trade allies who are part of this network are able to offer those Energy Trust standard incentives for solar and storage. And if you're eligible, you can check out the Solar Within Reach income qualified incentives. They also are pre-vetted and they know what the installation requirements are and design requirements are for the solar system. So um, that can be a really helpful place to start if you haven't gotten quotes yet. And so we're going to jump right into Q&A, but I'm going to just keep that um, bid request form up, and I'll repost the links in the chat